This launch event for the Geneva Cities Hub, organized according to the coronavirus rules. So that's why the special setting in the room. I'm most happy that we still could do it. It's like a small victory on the pandemic because we were supposed to do it in March. So we had to postpone it. So now we try to move forward, and very nice to see you, all of you. I would like to welcome in particular Her Excellency Ms. Tatiana Valovaya, Director General of the United Nations Office in Geneva, who will do some opening remarks. Very grateful to her to have her with us. It's a great honor. I will do myself some introductory remarks, and then His Excellency Ambassador Yannick Roulin, Deputy Permanent Representative of Switzerland at United Nations in Geneva. Then we have a video recorded message from my colleague of Tunis, the mayor of Tunis, Ms. Souad Abdelrahim, who is, like the city of Geneva, member of the Bureau of the International Network of the Francophone Cities, l'Association Internationale des Maires Francophones. And then our panelist, Ms. Isabelle Mestres, Director of Public Relations, City Council Channel Foundation, who will join us soon, I guess. Dr. Achim Wenman, who know very well in Geneva, Senior Researcher at the Graduate Institute of International and Development Studies and Executive Coordinator of the Geneva Peace Building Platform. And Paula Deda, Director of Forest, Land and Housing Division at the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, with whom we are working actively on a forum of mayors in early October. Looking forward. So thank to all of you to be present. After the introductory remark of Ms. Valovaya, myself and Ambassador Roulin will have a panel with the three colleagues, and hopefully some time also for the room to interact with the panelists. So now I'm very honored to give the floor to Director General Tatiana Valovaya. Thank you very much. No problem.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor of Geneva, Excellencies, dear colleagues, friends. Of course, I have prepared opening remarks, and they're even already translated into French. But I think I will use this opportunity just to share with you in this informal setting some ideas we've been discussing with Mr. Mayor, with my colleagues, with European Economic Commission about why, for us, for the United Nations, the dialogue with urban communities, the dialogue with cities is crucial these days. Of course, there is a well-known fact that now practically half of the humanity, 3.5 billion people, are living in towns, in cities. And we have the focus showing that quite soon it will be 5 billion people living in towns and cities. And of course, cities and urban communities are playing a more and more important role in all sides of our life. Whenever something is happening, of course, the first response is on the local level. And what we see now in the situation with the pandemic, of course, we see that the cities, the towns, the local authorities, the local communities are the first to start reacting, addressing the problem, and really finding solutions. At the same time, quite often we are talking about the situation of modern multilateralism. For us, it's a very important issue. This year, we are celebrating 75th anniversary of the United Nations. We launched a survey about the future citizens of the world want and the United Nations they need. And the first results of the survey, and you still can participate in this survey, show that really ordinary people, ordinary citizens all about the world, they need and want more multilateral cooperation. But when we discuss with people and between ourselves the types of the multilateral cooperation, we understand that we are not speaking about some kind of going back to traditional understanding of multilateral cooperation. Modern multilateralism should be inclusive, and it is already more and more inclusive. Of course, member states, national governments, are key players in the multilateral system. But at the same time, we have new participants and very active key players in the international arena. international organizations, supranational organizations, regional organizations, and of course cities. And cities as such are key actors in our multilateral cooperation. Whatever decision we have to make, of course, we have to consult and communicate with the cities. And the cities are playing a crucial role in reaching sustainable development goals. We know that there is a goal in itself, goal number 11, which is about urban cities, making cities sustainable. But when we take any other goal, we can't reach this goal without very close involvement of the cities and of the local urban communities. That's why for us, multilateralism is not just the cooperation between the national entities about the member states. It's also the cooperation which includes all levels of the decision-making, includes the cities. It includes non-governmental organizations. It includes universities, expert community, private sector, young people, youth movements, and all other organizations. That's why I think this network, which is being launched today, is crucial, because it's exactly the network which can be a very active part of this modern multilateralism. And I would say that on behalf of the United Nations office here in Geneva, of course, we are prepared to work very closely with this network. I'm going to address the Forum of Mayors on the 6th of October, organized by UNSC, and I'm really thinking that there are lots of possibilities for cooperation. I would like to draw attention to the possibility of cooperation between this network and our SDG lab, which exists within my office and which is also a very important structure in the International Geneva. So I just wanted to make these informal comments and remarks to draw the attention that it's not just an ordinary event about launching of the new network. I think it's a very important event if we're thinking from a point of view of developing and building up modern multilateralism. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. So it's my turn, which gives me again the opportunity to really acknowledge the tight cooperation around this event. Thank you very much for your very supporting word, Ms. Valovaya. I mean, it's really important, the recognition by the United Nations office in Geneva to support us and to foster, as you said, on the multilateral cooperation. I would like to thank also the Graduate Institute for hosting us today. Jacqueline Côté, Director of Public Relations of the Institute, and her conference team who helped us a lot. And also the Geneva Center of Security Policy who incubated the Cities Hub in a way, its early days, and made possible its creation. And to our, I mean, we have many partners in the International Geneva, but the two closest, UN Habitat and UNSC, who since the beginning recognized the importance of the Geneva Cities Hub. In a way, I make a continuation of Ms. Valovaya's introductory remarks, because we fully agree the challenges of today and tomorrow are so global, but also totally local. Even in a privileged city like Geneva, we realize that we don't write laws, legislation, but we are at the forefront of day-to-day reality of the population. And they address to us two very concrete issues, being social issues, climate issues, migration, and at the moment, pandemia. And we try to give responses. And whenever I talk to colleagues, mayors of other cities, they experience the same situation, even if the context can vary a lot. And I think these challenges need global solutions, but include all possible key players. And obviously the states are crucial, are still crucial, and they play a crucial role, and this is important, but they can't reach it alone. We know we are experiencing multilateral cooperation, international organizations, obviously the private sectors, the academia, NGOs, and civil society in general. But the awareness that local governments as such have a role to play, being each alone, but more and more through networks, is more recent. I think they're a crucial partner in the discussion, both in identifying the concrete issues, the challenges, but also trying to have innovatory and new type of solutions. So, and the cities are very, able to find local solutions which are anchored in the local populations, and this is absolutely important. So especially for all the SDGs, we have been mentioning SDG 11, but which is a localization of the whole sustainable development. But cities have a practical experience which has to be included in the international discussion. So the Cities Hub was a joint venture of the Swiss Confederation. Again, thank you for the support of the Swiss Confederation. The Canton of Geneva, also present in the room, and the City of Geneva. It's not a new city network, we have enough networks, but it's a facilitator, a catalyzer, especially to connect networks of cities and cities with international Geneva as large, international organization, NGOs, academics, private sector, just to be sure that one of the strengths of Geneva International is to be very complete and diverse and multilateral. So in a way, we are also introducing a multi-level governance by introducing local governments in the game, and to try to connect abstract and global discussions and solutions with local reality. And the cities try already among themselves to support each other through their networks, or in practical situation. If you think of the drama in Beirut recently, I myself have from Lebanon, so I was especially concerned. But very quickly, as an example, the city of Geneva and the city of Lausanne have been in touch with the network of international Francophone cities, IMF, and the city of Geneva is chairing the task force, the working group on resilience of cities in UCLG. And also in that context, we're trying to find solutions to help Beirut to overcome this terrible tragedy. And obviously we work with our states, because states are, as I said, still important. The advantage of cities, they may be sometimes less struck in historical and diplomatical complications than states, so we can sometimes create contacts which can be also very fruitful as a complementary element. So I'm very happy that Geneva Cities Hub has now really started activities, and one of the major next event is the Forum of Mayors on the 5th and 6th of October with UNSC. We're looking forward to this, very important, and for sure we'll have many other opportunities to work together, and we're open for suggestions, obviously, and any ideas. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to give the floor to Ambassador Rula. Thank you very much.
Voilà, Madame la Directrice Générale de l'Office des Nations Unies à Genève, Monsieur le maire de Genève, Mesdames et Messieurs, nous avons le plaisir aujourd'hui de célébrer le lancement officiel de cette nouvelle plateforme, le Geneva Cities Hub. J'en suis personnellement vraiment très heureux, ayant aussi eu l'occasion de suivre l'évolution de ce projet depuis son début. C'est un projet innovant qui a été rendu possible grâce à l'excellente collaboration entre la ville de Genève, le canton de Genève et la Confédération suisse, c'est-à-dire les trois autorités hautes de la Genève internationale. Je salue au nom du département fédéral des affaires étrangères la volonté et l'engagement politique des autorités locales qui ont abouti aux décisions de créer une association indépendante et de lui octroyer un financement. Et je tiens ici à exprimer notre plein soutien à ce projet dont nous sommes également partenaires. Certains se demanderont peut-être pourquoi vouloir connecter la Genève internationale avec ses nombreuses organisations interétatiques à la diplomatie urbaine qui est, elle, d'essence transnationale. Eh bien simplement parce que dans un monde de plus en plus urbanisé, la diplomatie des villes fait partie des tendances majeures des relations du XXIe siècle. Elle s'inscrit aussi dans un mouvement plus large d'une gouvernance mondiale menée en partenariat avec des entités non étatiques. La Genève internationale, comme vous le savez, c'est 40 organisations internationales, c'est près de 180 États représentés par une ou plusieurs missions ici, c'est plus de 400 ONG et c'est aussi des secteurs privés et académiques forts. C'est ainsi un lieu unique au monde, de par cette concentration forte d'acteurs très divers, mais qui travaillent ensemble pour un monde meilleur. Grâce à cette nouvelle plateforme, la Genève internationale va donc s'enrichir encore, en s'ouvrant cette fois-ci aux entités que sont les villes. Car vous l'avez bien compris, il ne s'agit aucunement ici de créer un nouveau réseau des villes, mais bien de faciliter les connexions entre ces réseaux, qui sont déjà nombreux et bien établis, et les acteurs présents ici à Genève. Représentant plus de la moitié de la population mondiale, les villes sont fortement concernées par nombre de défis globaux et ont donc un rôle stratégique à jouer dans le développement de solutions concrètes, notamment pour réaliser les 17 objectifs du développement durable. Et à mesure que le monde s'urbanise, l'importance de leur expérience, de leur connaissance du terrain et de leur capacité de mise en œuvre sera indispensable. Le reconnaître n'est pas rendre les États moins importants, mais faire en sorte que nos travaux à tous soient en fait plus efficaces et plus pertinents. De manière générale, ce n'est d'ailleurs que par une coopération étroite entre non seulement les États et les organisations internationales, mais aussi la société civile, le secteur privé, le monde académique et évidemment les villes, que les nombreux défis globaux auxquels nos sociétés sont confrontées pourront être surmontés. Ce sera là le rôle de cette plateforme, de mieux associer les villes et leurs réseaux aux acteurs de la gouvernance mondiale présents ici à Genève pour des échanges de connaissances et d'expériences qui seront mutuellement bénéfiques. Je souhaite beaucoup de succès à ce beau projet et à vous toutes et tous une excellente soirée à l'occasion de ce lancement. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur l'ambassadeur. Et maintenant, on va donc entendre le message de la maire de Tunis par vidéo. Alors peut-être, je ne sais pas si M. Venman, Madame S pourrait juste bouger pendant le...
Chers collègues, je voudrais d'abord remercier cordialement mon collègue M. Sami Kanaan, maire de Genève, qui a bien voulu m'inviter à cette rencontre et le féliciter chaleureusement pour l'initiative qu'il a prise de créer une plateforme d'échange avec les grandes organisations internationales dont le siège est à Genève. Le XXe siècle a vu la multiplication des acteurs sur la scène internationale, notamment les collectivités locales. Mais notre action a été observée avec une certaine bienveillance. En fait, la capacité d'influence de cette diplomatie est restée confidentielle. Avec les grandes crises mondiales de la fin du XXe siècle, tout a changé. La lutte contre la pollution et le réchauffement climatique, le Covid-19 ont mis les maires en première ligne. En effet, la crise du Covid-19 a montré combien les États étaient mal outillés pour faire face à une crise qui ne peut se régler par la force des armées. On a même ressenti, à cette occasion, un hiatus entre le repli de certains États et l'ouverture des villes. Ce sentiment, nous en avions déjà pris conscience dans la lutte engagée contre le réchauffement climatique. Or, les crises internationales qui affectent massivement les populations dans leur globalité ne seront maîtrisées que dans le cadre d'un étroit partenariat entre le local et le national, c'est-à-dire la reconnaissance concrète du savoir-faire des maires. Et la diplomatie internationale doit porter ce message. Les logiques de l'ancien monde n'ont plus cours. Covid-19 a permis aux maires de devenir de nouveaux sachants et d'affirmer leur rôle essentiel. Quand il s'agit de mobiliser une société face à un risque majeur, ces démarches représentent une partie importante de notre travail qui ne doit plus être sous-estimée, mais au contraire valorisée au niveau national et international. Le circuit court entre le pouvoir de décision et les citoyens est essentiel dans la gestion de risques. Ce principe d'action est moins clair dans l'esprit des dirigeants de plusieurs pays. Pourtant, nous avons tous constaté, en Amérique ou en Europe, qu'un certain nombre de collectivités territoriales ont été bien plus actives que l'État dont elles dépendaient. La proximité de nos électeurs, leur vigilance, nous interdit de répondre avec des discours à un problème qui les touche au cœur. Les électeurs nous obligent à l'action, à la mesure de nos moyens. Là intervient la diplomatie multilatérale qui peut nous donner plus de marge de manœuvre financière pour que les villes soient plus autonomes dans la mise en œuvre de leurs politiques adaptées à leur territoire. En ce moment, j'ai la conviction que ce sont les villes qui sont en mesure de défendre l'approche multilatérale au moment où les organisations internationales peinent à le faire. Or, on ne leur donne pas les moyens de le faire. On devrait leur attribuer avec le réseau, notamment l'IMF, une place à la table mondiale des décisions. Quant aux maires, ils ont compris que l'international est une riche boîte à outils pour résoudre les problèmes locaux. Ils ont compris que pour gagner en autonomie face aux États qui détiennent leur pouvoir à travers des dotations financières, l'international est une alternative crédible. Et c'est là qu'intervient le Hub de Genève. Nous aider à mieux comprendre les organisations internationales, nous aider à mieux nous faire comprendre pour toujours plus de considération pour ce que nous sommes. Compréhension pour la difficulté de notre tâche liée à la proximité de nos peuples. L'IMF, dans ce contexte, est quelque chose de concret. Elle investit 85% de ses ressources dans des projets concrets. Elle répond à nos attentes dans nos démarches liées au processus de décentralisation, mais aussi aux questions liées à la modernité, du numérique ou à la promotion du patrimoine. L'IMF est aussi un tout cohérent en associant plaidoyer et action pour le développement. Elle contribue à créer un climat apaisé, un environnement propice au règlement des crises. C'est toute sa différence d'avec les ONG qui, chacune d'entre elles, agissent dans leur spécificité. Souvent, elles interviennent dans nos villes sans être dans une démarche de concertation avec la municipalité. En revanche, l'IMF, c'est nous les maires. C'est une institution gouvernée par des maires qui représentent la diversité de réseaux. L'IMF, dans la mesure de ses moyens, apporte aux maires un soutien financier à leur politique locale. Tunis en est un bel exemple. La ville s'est rapidement engagée dans la lutte contre le Covid-19. Cet engagement a mobilisé les élus, les matériels et le personnel. Cela veut dire multiplication des réunions publiques pour sensibiliser la population. 15 à 20 opérations de désinfection par jour. Pendant 4 mois, ces opérations se sont déroulées dans les 15 arrondissements. Ils ont ciblé les bâtiments municipaux, les ministères, les bureaux de poste, ceux de la police, les supermarchés, les rues et les lieux de culte. En fonction de l'espace ciblé, l'opération s'est répétée tous les 2 à 5 jours. À cela, se sont ajoutées des allocations de crédit pour les plus démunis et des opérations quotidiennes de contrôle de respect des mesures prises pour réduire les risques de contamination, la régulation au niveau des commerces ouverts au public. Un numéro unique a été mis à la disposition des citoyens 7 jours sur 7 pour répondre à leurs questions et leur venir en aide. Et cela, bien que le processus de décentralisation adopté par le Parlement ne soit encore mis en place complètement, la majorité des services concernés par la lutte contre le Covid sont sous l'autorité centralisée. C'est dire notre situation. Grâce à son partenaire international, l'IMF Tunis a pu renforcer sa capacité d'intervention pour l'adapter à notre territoire. Son centre de santé, déjà financé par l'IMF, a été renforcé par l'acquisition d'équipements médicaux nouveaux. Ainsi, elle a reçu une ambulance et bien sûr des bavettes, des thermomètres et divers matériels. L'IMF est donc pour les membres du réseau, notamment ceux d'Afrique, une réponse à notre besoin d'autonomie face aux États centraux. Mais mon enthousiasme pour cette situation et son business plan est tempéré par la faiblesse relative des soutiens financiers dont elle bénéficie. Nous le savons tous, une ONG spécialisée est bien plus écoutée par les grands bailleurs internationaux. C'est la conséquence de l'excessive attention apportée aux techniques et à la spécialisation et beaucoup moins à la capacité concrète d'influence sociale. Aussi, notre association d'élus locaux reste une organisation d'un troisième type, en dépit des audits successifs aux résultats excellents. Elle interpelle par sa manière de faire, étonne par ses résultats concrets et sa capacité de plaider, d'œuvrer concrètement dans le respect des codes de valeurs internationaux. Le moment est venu pour les institutions internationales d'acter la force politique et sociale de notre organisation. Nous sommes une institution morale, une communauté de valeurs, tout à fait en phase avec les messages internationaux. Nous sommes aussi une force d'influence. Nos résultats sur les terrains ont mérité une reconnaissance des bailleurs internationaux à travers leurs audits répétés. Mais je n'ai pas le sentiment que les organisations internationales ont tiré les conséquences de ces faits. Le Hub de Genève est donc une espérance pour tous les membres du réseau des maires francophones, afin de valoriser notre manière de fonctionner, afin de rassurer les bailleurs, afin de faire comprendre pourquoi nous sommes attachés à ce réseau-là, dont l'objectif est de dire bien sûr, mais aussi de nous donner concrètement plus d'autonomie, c'est-à-dire plus d'autorité dans notre action. Merci pour votre attention.
Merci beaucoup, effectivement, à ma collègue de Tunis d'avoir pris le temps de faire ce message. Elle ne pouvait pas venir physiquement aujourd'hui à Genève, mais disons, c'est un message très engagé d'une ville qui effectivement a aussi évidemment subi les conséquences de plein de soucis cumulés. Le Covid intervient dans un contexte qui est déjà économiquement et socialement complexe. We'll now move to the panelists. Thank you again for being present. And to start, since you are all three from very different contexts, I would like you to start with to share a story and impression about your connection with the world of local governments and how it relates to your work and your observation. You will have each 3-4 minutes, and I'm really keen to listen to you. We'll start with my neighbor, Isabelle Mestres from the City Cancer Challenge Foundation. So you may explain first the aim and it's open normally, it should work.
Perfect, thank you. Well, thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you, Director General, Ambassador, and everyone, my panelist colleagues. This is really exciting from an NGO perspective, this event and this organization. I think we will touch base about the benefits that we see of this type of organization. So City Cancer Challenge is a standalone foundation based in Geneva with the support of the Canton of Geneva, so thank you very much. And it's born from the Union for International Cancer Control, which is another Geneva-based advocacy organization since 1933, which is basically is the voice of cancer at the UN. But what we were realizing is that those UN commitments were not translating into local action. Like you went to a city, you talk about targets and indicators, and they had no clue. That was not flowing down, all the information around targets on health or on city level, everything was just staying in the corridors, in our case, of WHO. So we realized that it's not just that we need to drive action, it's that we also need to support the action happening. So City Cancer Challenge supports cities around the world to improve access to quality and equitable cancer care. And cancer is very complex because cancer touches everything. So diagnostics, data, palliative care, surgery, it's the whole health system that is impacted to access cancer. So where do we start? So the question for us is how to actually drive action. I mean, are we going to start again talking about the national level? It's too complex. So that's when we decided, it was like 3 years ago, thinking, let's start at the city level. Cities were starting to become a voice, but not for cancer care. Actually, I remember 3 years ago when we were starting at the beginning, it was a very innovative idea because nobody was thinking of cities for diagnostic and treatment. So we met with the UN agencies. It was a group of like us with no COVID all together. And we were talking about the importance of driving action from the city as a bottom-up approach. And the health attaché, and I'm sorry if there is anyone in this room, but at that moment, like, what are you doing? Cities should be just focusing on prevention, campaigns. But for us, of course, we had this idea. We know the cities were driving the change. We wanted to test it. So it's been tested. And for us, driving change, cities driving change is a guiding principle, because the cities where the institutions are, the cities where the data is collected, and the cities where the people are. And I remember with the mayor of León, one of the cities in Mexico, when we were launching there, he said something like, he was also a governor, and he was saying, it's interesting how the political layers, the mayor is always, and I'm sorry, seen like the lowest in the chain versus the governor and the president. But in fact, I'm the one nearest to the people. I'm the one nearest to the information, to the needs. And we've seen in COVID, to have a response, we need data. We need commitment from the public and the private sector. We need responding to the needs. Who knows that? That's the city who knows that. And that's how we've been able to actually work with the city, bringing, of course, the regional and the national stakeholders. Of course, they're a critical part of the decision-making, but the city was the convener. They're bringing the public and the private institutes, the academia, and it's always hard, and there's a lot of lack of knowledge of public-private partnership, but the mayor has, as you said before, sometimes from all the ones, you're the more neutral. So there's more openness for all having a solution. So with the data collected at city level, we are able to to agree on what are the needs. We support the stakeholders to prioritize based on the local needs. And then, of course, we create communities that normally they're not tend to work together, because we bring together the local government, the regional, the national government, together with the health institutions, with the patient organizations, with the academia, because they're all part of the solution, so they all need to drive it. So I'll put some examples of what's the power of the city. So first, in every country, of course, we're talking about more low, middle-income countries, there is guidelines and protocols for health. What happened is that those guidelines and protocols are policies are in shelves, in cupboards. They're not going down, because when you go down, it doesn't the context doesn't apply. They're not applicable, because whoever wrote that, normally they use copy-paste from an international expert, which normally doesn't affect to your local context, because you don't have that capability, you don't have that expertise or that technology. So actually what we've shifted is the process of drafting the guidelines and protocols from the local people, from the health institutions, for the ones that are working with patients every single day, bringing the public and the private, both. And that actually has now shifted up in many of the cities we're working and are becoming national policies, because they're adaptable, they're usable for the local context. Another example is resource mobilization. In one of the cities, of course, through the needs assessment, there is a clear need to strengthen cancer care in the public system. So we did a feasibility study for a comprehensive cancer center. That was pushed, of course, to the region and to the national government, and then 15 million was allocated for that for this year. Health system is too complex. You need that data to know where to invest and have the data on where to best invest. So ministers of finance, ministers of health need the data from the city. Also education. We also saw from the city that there was a lack of oncology nurses. Well, it was not in the public curriculum. So again, we had to shift that data up to the national government, to the Ministry of Education, that they need to include nursing oncology, and now there's nursing oncology. The other one, which is an interesting one, is, I don't know how you're familiar with Hpv vaccine, which is vaccine for cervical cancer prevention, as cervical cancer can be prevented. So it's always a bit controversy, this vaccine. And Colombia, in this case, I'm okay to share the name, Colombia had a big issue, and they had to take out Hpv vaccine because of some social scandals from adolescents. When we were in Cali, which is one of our cities, the mayor of Cali thought, okay, I have now City Cancer Challenge, a very well-known international organization in Geneva that works with WHO on the Hpv vaccine. It's my time to show Colombia that we can reintroduce Hpv vaccine. So using that momentum, us as an international community, bringing WHO, the International Union for International Control, all the task force that has been done, we support them, giving them the voice and the strength. And now Cali has 90% coverage of Hpv vaccine versus 10% at the national level. Of course, everybody wants to talk with Cali to understand how they take this to their other city. So there's many examples, and sometimes I feel I want to I want to show our experience, because for us, cities have been innovators. It's the agility, but most important, has helped us to co-create new ways to address cancer care that at the beginning nobody trusted. We're launching Davos, and even that, they were all questioning, why cities? Leave them just to do tobacco campaigns. Well, you're not going to strengthen your health system if you're not involving the cities. So I'll stop here.
Thank you very much for this first input, which is focused on really real issues daily today of the population. And I have the pleasure to give the floor to Achim Wendmann, who is Executive Coordinator of Geneva Peace Building Platform. Achim.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and allow me first and foremost to congratulate you and all who have been involved in the setting up of the Geneva Cities Hub for finally this great idea to having seen the light, and I'm really looking forward to what the hub has upcoming in the next couple of months and years. As you mentioned, working on a network that includes around 3,000 individuals working on peace negotiations and in very difficult contexts. These contexts also include city spaces. So the first exposure that I had to working in cities and with city actors was in 2011, when a government approached the Geneva Peace Building Platform to say, could you please discreetly convene a meeting with facilitators who do facilitation with organized criminal groups in cities? Because in our mediation context, these are the actors that we need to be better in working with. So I convened this meeting in Geneva, not very publicly, as you can imagine, but it showed me that there was a lot in there, that the capabilities, know-how, and experiences of actors who do the facilitation of conflict and injustices in city context was very similar to what actors in Geneva, perhaps more familiar, do with rebel groups or also with some governments. So there was a similar vocabulary, there was surely a similar experience of different types that do these types of work, and there was, of course, also a similar type of ethical conundrum which is surrounding these issues. Fast forward, we collaborated with UN Habitat and many other actors here in Geneva and internationally to dig deeper about what this connection between the urban safety, urban security, and also peace building is. I facilitated and co-chaired a technical working group on urban safety and peace building. We convened 2 major conferences on this issue here in Geneva and drew together a number of intellectual and professional documents to be shared with the global community who work in that space. Now, where these nearly 10 years of engagement in that space, a quite sophisticated new picture has evolved that demonstrate the relevance of an entity like the Geneva Cities Hub. This is, on the one hand, as was so rightly already said, cities as actors, as players, also as so eloquently underlined by the mayor of Tunis, but also the city as spaces where things happen. War happens in cities. Disasters happen in cities. Protests happen in cities. And the way city administrations or many of the other social actors that happen to be in the city space manage these kind of disruptions will be very important of how these cities can remain sources of opportunity and also a source of well-being for most of the people who live in them. So I think there is a lot where not just mayors, but also many other actors who work in that space can connect to, and this, in the peace domain, is one of our elements, just things which we do, where we help to demystify, translate, and also filter what peace-building practice may mean for different actors in the city. And just to conclude, we had one local community worker in Guadalajara, in fact, in Mexico, who came to us, wow, I never thought of myself as a peace builder, but yes, yo puedo ser un constructor de la paz. And she came out of this meeting completely completely energized. So much on the connection to cities. And of course, there's a lot of work to do, and I look forward to the collaboration with the Hub.
Thank you very much, Achim. Before giving the floor to Paola Deda, I would like to welcome Pierre Baillet, my friend, Permanent Secretary of the Association Internationale des Maires Francophones, who came just here from Paris, some delay in the train at the risk of traveling today, and who was very much involved in organizing the input of the mayor of Tunis before, which was very appreciated. Bienvenue, Pierre. Paola, it's your floor.
Thank you. Well, we heard of cities and cancer, cities and peace, and I'm going to talk about cities and cities. You know what? I work for UNICE. You heard UNICE has a number of committees, and one of them is called the Committee on Urban Development, Land Management and Housing. Obviously, urban development is about cities. This is a very old committee with a long history since 1947, and at the beginning, of course, it was there to reconstruct Europe. When we talk about Europe in ECE, we also means North America, Russia, Central Asia, so it's an enlarged concept of Europe. So we say it from Vancouver to Vladivostok. And reconstruction there was very heavy. Then, of course, the committee evolved with the needs of cities in the region. But it was always member states, it was always the diplomacy, the international diplomacy at the level of governments that has been negotiating decisions as well as tools for cities. And it continues to do so. But obviously, lately, as we said, that the diplomacy of cities, the diplomatie de ville has been evolving. The participation of local governments has been more and more important. And I brought some examples of the products we have. One that I'm sure the mayor knows well is called the Geneva Uncharted on Sustainable Housing. This was negotiated for a long time, and it was adopted by member countries. Of course, with the input of local authorities, but it's mainly an overarching international agreement. Is this going to be useful for cities? It's not going to be useful if it doesn't trickle down at the national level and then at the urban level. So what happens is that UNICE then undertakes what is called country profiles on housing and land management. And again, this is a picture, but this is a picture at the national level. But then when you start reading about the picture at national level, you realize that we are talking about a number of cities that are part of a country. But then when you want to make a difference, then you have to go at that level. And here we have the smartest sustainable city profile of Goris, Armenia, to give you an example. So that's finally when it gets, and it lands at the operational level, which is a city. Another example is not only about cities, but when you talk also about urban ecology, we have a program of work on environment and forests, but this, again, is negotiated at the level of governments. If you get to have such a difference in cities, as we came up with the Trees and Cities Challenge, cities that are committing trees and number of trees that we can count to be planted in cities. I leave that with you, by the way, as Geneva is not yet part of the challenge, so I'll drop it with you later. But again, if you look at this, and this I think was very much felt also from delegates that have been negotiated, and we are talking about the Forum of Mayors, the decision to convene a Forum of Mayors is because cities were always in the second row. They were part of the national delegation, they were advising, they were participating, but they were never the main actors, or at least they were not as, the same level and as at the same sort of participatory level as the member states. And I think this is what happened. The realization happened within UNICE when we convened in April 2019 the forum, the Day of Cities. It was a first attempt to hear the voices of mayors and to give them the floor. It was a very unusual format. We said, okay, let's hear out from them in an informal way, just hear their voices and hear if there's something different to say, or if we are going to hear the same things about smart and sustainable cities as governments are saying. And the moment we, and the mayor of Geneva was there, so you can actually confirm if what I'm saying is, and you had the same impression, but what we heard were different stories. were stories from people that actually had their hands on. And perhaps I'm not very diplomatic, and I don't want to say that governments don't have hands-on, but it's a different level. The mayors have the pulse of citizens, have the pulse of people, have the something that at the government level is different because you're further away from the realities. And actually, I heard the example of COVID very often, but that's it. At the end, if you had to intervene, the mayor of Tunis correctly said, armies were not very useful. But it was useful to organize in a city so that the emergency relief could be provided quite fast, or different solutions or alternatives so that to address both the emergency and the long-term planning. So that came out very clearly from the Day of Cities, that there were new voices that were not alternative voices, they were complementary voices, and that's what we stress also very much. The Forum of Mayors is part of the committee, is not an alternative body, is not a body that it's putting itself in competition, on the contrary, is complementary. So finally, there was this decision approved within EC to convene the Forum of Mayors. The voices will be given to mayors. We are going to hear from them. Initially, of course, we were in the pre-COVID times. We wanted it to be focused on climate change. Then the decision changed to, of course, address urban emergencies. So the forum will be focusing very much on COVID responses. And I think that we are going to learn a lot, because we're really cities that were in the forefront of the battle, and they identify the best solutions. So hopefully there will be also an exchange on how the solutions were found, which solutions, and what is next, actually, how we can plan the post-COVID period in urban areas. I stop here because then I wanted to say how we want to cooperate with the Geneva City Hub, but I guess that's the second question. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Paola. It's, with your three inputs, nice already overview of the diversity of connection to the world of local government, but also how complementary and essential it is in the system, and the increasing role, and it has to be further developed. So indeed, if you could now express your expectations and opinions on how the Geneva Cities Hub can take its role in the Geneva scene and being supportive of between the cities and international life in Geneva. Isabel?
Okay. Thank you. So I'm just going to give a bit of perspective of our model to understand the benefits. So SICEN works in a model of stakeholder engagement and understanding the needs of the city, looking to priorities, developing action plans across everything that affects cancer. And this is all driven by the local stakeholders through an executive committee of key decision makers from all levels. But throughout the process, there's always need for international expertise, international standards. So we are the ones mobilizing all that expertise that city needs to advance on what they've identified, on what are their priorities. So in that case, that's where we see the support. Because cancer is not, of course, we have access to WHO, that's our comfort zone. But cancer, and more we're seeing, it requires technology, data, digital healthcare, IT, artificial intelligence. There's so much that goes way beyond WHO that we don't have access. And there's expertise that they're requesting that we want to have access to so that we can support cities with everything that's happening. So a few years ago, we brought a delegation of secretaries of health of our cities. One, to create network between them so that they can share experiences between cities on the area of health. And of course, we brought them to WHO, the Atomic Energy Agency in Vienna, and different other NGOs. Of course, it was focused more for them to build a connection, but also understand what is the international dialogue, what is happening that is not translating down. So again, how can we expand that? How we can build more capacity to those health individuals or others in the Geneva in Geneva community? And I think that's something that we don't have access to, because we've been always in this silo of health, but we need the others. We need telecommunications. There is this organization around training, e-learning that we have to get access to. Of course, the other one is, on the other side, is to generate demand to our cities. Of course, we want the mayors to be interested on SIC, and we want the mayors to see the value that we're going to bring into their city, how we're going to put the spotlight on health and bring the international community to support that city. So again, we have a new call for applications. We're focused on low middle income countries, and again, how can we raise awareness of what we're doing and the impact we're having and what's the benefit for their cities.
Thank you. Concrete expectations. Achim, you are as such already a kind of hub focusing on peace building. So how is your position and expectation?
Look, expectations are high, of course, and lots of ideas. So there's no shortage of that. I'll offer 4 thoughts. The first one is to start really identifying what knowledge about capabilities is necessary to make Geneva this docking station for cities that want to connect to Geneva and get something out of it. So it's like the cities are the USB, they plug into international Geneva and they download something on their USB and they just go back. That's one, the docking station. What is necessary? What capability mapping is necessary? What are cities interested in? So that includes choices, judgments, and you can't do everything at once, but that's one idea. Then the second point is about the rayonnement de la Genève Internationale to cities. Because I know that many more things on cities are already done in Geneva that are not packaged as cities. So that's a repackaging exercise. It's a comms exercise. Find it out. I mean, on peace, call me. I know what works where and who does what in cities on peace negotiations. That's number 2. Then there are long-term plannable city strategic issues that progressively one can network and plan for, which is that one can focus on the 20 most affected coastal cities that in the next 15 to 20 years have to Plannible move at least 5 million people out of their city space. That's a very predictable, plannable type of affair with a core set of cities that need expertise that sit in the WMO and can be accessed via the Geneva web. Very plannable. And then on the other side, there are the short-term, we should have hit the road running yesterday type of things. In the peace and security world, we do know that in the next 6 to 12 months, there will be 40 countries that will see very significant political commotions. And as governments crumble, cities will be the administrative centers that will kind of uphold the social fabrics, the political fabrics. So it's pretty well known what some of these countries could be, where are these city places, but it is now the relationships that one needs to do in order to kind of prepare some of the city administrations and some of the social actors in cities so that the impact of the commotion, of the instability will not be as direct. So these are 4 elements on the docking station, on the rayonnement, on the long-term plannable, and on the short-term efforts that the Geneva Cities Hub can be helpful to. Finally, underlying all of this is a support network of 20 platforms that exist in Geneva that are usually thematically focused. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You only, and I look to Daria, get yourself the 24 numbers of your platform heads. And if ever a mayor wants to know something on internet, there you call Jovan. No? Delegating or connecting. No? So here we go.
Thank you very much, Achim. That's very practically oriented for Daria when she takes office mid of September. It seems it's already started in a way. Paula.
Thank you. Well, let me focus perhaps on what the Geneva Cities Hub is already doing. So we talk about, well, let me just tell you that the Forum of Mayors and the Geneva Cities Hub were born more or less together. And then a year ago, then Camilla and I got together, and the forum did not yet exist, and so didn't the Geneva City Hub. So I think practical now we have 2 babies that are twins. and these two babies are very complementary. I see them like two sides of the same coin as far as cities and the work on cities is concerned. Well, I'm saying that, well, because I heard a lot network, but I remember from the very start on the discussions of the city hub, we said this is a hub, this is a network, and that makes a big difference. It's a difference between being an airport or being the routes of planes. The routes of planes are the network, but this is an airport. This is where everything has to land and then have access to what the Geneva International offers. And this is very important for the Forum of Mayors because it's exactly the door we want them to take so that they will liaise to the Geneva International. And the Geneva International so far was steered towards governments that of course have an access, but now we need to bring in the local actors so that they also connect with the relevant organizations and also with the work, the urban work that is taking place in Geneva. This is not only urban work of ECE, there are many organizations that are producing products that are relevant at the urban level. To talk about what is going to already happening, what is already happening, we are organizing together with you guys this SDG 11 Day on the 5th of October, and that's where the hub will connect with the networks, because that's another work of the hub that is putting networks together. They're bringing in thematic perspectives and connecting them with the work of the United Nations here through the hub. So at the end, all the planes are going to land and have access that the Geneva International. And of course, you heard it many times, it's not publicity anymore, now it's becoming even too much, but it's the Forum of Mayors. But because this is actually, see, I've been in the international negotiations for a long time and in intergovernmental processes, and it was always government. We never thought that there was a door opening for local authorities, and that door is there. And I know that there is Marie-Pierre looking at me and said, "Be careful what you're saying here," because I'm watching you. And but it's not, that I'm saying, as what I said before, it's not that we are opening the door to mayors and dumping ambassadors and ministers. It's not at all. It's that we are adding mayors to ambassadors and ministers in the international arena and in policy making, and that's essential. And I think that, I don't need to prove that. I think, as we said, the COVID pandemic was the proof that that's needed, and we are taking it from there. Let's see what comes out of the forum and what will be the next step. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lots of expectation, but also proposals and ideas. So I think we won't be getting bored at the Cities Hub, which is very good. You have now the opportunity. I would like to give the floor to the audience. J'aimerais aussi donner la parole aux participants, aux personnes présentes pour des questions, des remarques. Qui se lance en premier? Who starts first? It's always the most difficult. Don't hesitate. Yes, please. Could you just maybe present yourself?
Okay. Henri Jetta, Secretary General of EFTA. I'm just curious, how is the hub going to be run? In practical terms, will it be hosted in one of your offices? Do you have dedicated colleagues working for it? How do you plan to make it operational?
That's a very operational question indeed, but very important. So it's a small structure co-funded by the Swiss Confederation, the Canton of Geneva, and the City of Geneva. And so it's a legally autonomous entity, provisionally based at the Villa Rigaud, not far from here, as long as it's the Canton of Geneva which made it available. So we'll sometime do. And there is a dedicated staff. Camileva, maybe you just show yourself, who is interim director. And starting mid-September, Daria Cibrario, who takes over as director. She's here. Daria, could you please just... She will be director of the hub starting on mid of September. And also very happy to have Antu Duong, who is also the third person of the staff. So it's a 3-woman team, so very powerful. And it will act, as we said, with both responding to demands, but also initiating our own activities. As we said, for example, we were talking about this in the board just before. Lots of people work on urban issues in Geneva, but they're not necessarily connected to each other. and not necessarily aware, and this potential can be strengthened, and Cities Hub can also, for example, work on this as one of many.
So it could
ideas.
also be called Geneva City Hub.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you. D'autres remarques, d'autres questions, any other contributions? Yes, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Nairi Petrosyan, Deputy Permanent Representative of Armenia. Thank you very much for putting up this event. This was indeed very interesting and illuminating, especially for the point that was brought by Paula about the city of Goris. I've never heard about that, so I would approach you to to have a look at it. But basically, my mission is very much supportive of the idea of the Forum of Mayors. So we have been advising the mayor of Yerevan to engage actively in this, exactly from the point of logic that you brought in. And the idea of putting up a Geneva Cities Hub is an excellent one. A place where indeed people from various cities of the world can come up and get their new know-how, new knowledge, or new expertise. That's something that will be useful for many, including my own home country and my favorite city of Yerevan. I will build up on the previous question. So, as we understand what the format and where the Geneva Cities Hub would be established and how it will function. So what's next? What are the next steps after the Geneva Cities Hub initiative has already been launched? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your input. I have good memories because of Yerevan, because I was just elected in 2011, and the first General Assembly of IMF I was attending was in Yerevan. So I haven't been to Armenia since then, but I have very good memories of being welcome in Armenia at that time. Next steps, we will have to focus on defining the strategy, because we have taken some months of delay because of the COVID. This event that was supposed to happen in March. And as I said before, we have to balance between responding to demands from other entities, and very positive, like UNSC was an excellent, UNSC came to us and said, would you co-organize the SDG 11 day? And it was a very nice cooperation, totally complementary to your Forum of Mayors. We have signs of other international organizations who like to increase their cooperation with cities and would come to the Cities Hub to take us as a partner. So in most, everything we'll do will probably be based on partnership with somebody or many organizations. We are obviously have to define some core issues. Health will be one of them, because health is crucial. Humanitarian work. We have done already a workshop to connect networks of cities with humanitarian agencies. And at some stage, we'll find a way to have increased contact with missions, because the states are still obviously a crucial partner to make us known and to avoid any misunderstandings also within the general setting. We'll see how to do it. We work closely with the Swiss mission to have as a fruitful cooperation and not a kind of ignoring each other or, avoiding contact. Thank you. Yes?
Bonsoir, Marie-Pierre Mégan, conseillère à la mission de la France ici à Genève. Je voudrais d'abord excuser mon ambassadeur qui n'a pas pu se rendre ici, mais qui m'a délégué. Et comme j'ai été aussi interpellée par Paola, je voudrais dire, comme notre collègue arménien, que la mission de la France soutient avec beaucoup de volontarisme et le Forum des maires depuis le début et le Geneva City Hubs, et que de notre point de vue, c'est, comme vous l'avez très bien dit, les deux en jumelage, la porte d'entrée pour les villes au multilatéralisme et au multilatéralisme genevois, c'est-à-dire à la fois pour échanger entre elles, à la fois pour parler avec les organisations des Nations Unies et toute cette communauté du multilatéralisme genevois qui est très opérationnel, comme vous le savez, dans la mise en œuvre des ODD. Et à la fois pour créer aussi un réseau, pas un réseau supplémentaire de villes, mais il y a d'abord un côté un peu régional, et après, nous savons tous qu'il y a des réseaux de villes stars, si j'ose dire, de grandes capitales qui interviennent, notamment dans le climat, avec les villes du 440, et que ce réseau complémentaire permet d'avoir une masse de villes qui sont moins stars, qui sont peut-être pas forcément toujours les capitales, qui sont les lieux où l'urbanisation se fait, qui sont des villes petites et moyennes avec des grosses structures et qui peuvent échanger entre, et qui sont souvent jumelées avec leurs collègues dans le monde entier. Et donc pour nous, c'est vraiment ça l'enjeu majeur. Donc j'ai la même question que mon collègue What Next, nous sommes toujours prenants. Et puis aussi cette idée, mais vous le savez, que la Genève internationale a un peu aussi des côtés frontaliers avec la France voisine, et que par exemple une ville comme Annemasse, si elle n'a pas déjà adhéré, qui accueille aussi des ONG de la Genève internationale. Pour nous aussi, c'est le Geneva City Hub est aussi très ancré dans ce multilatéralisme-là. Voilà, merci.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la conseillère. Je ne peux que me réjouir de votre intervention. Alors, je vais en parler avec mon ami maire d'Annemasse, Christian Dupessé, parce qu'effectivement, je sais qu'il est très attentif à la coopération régionale, comme je le suis, et malgré tous les obstacles, en fonction des situations, surtout en ce moment d'ailleurs, on n'espère pas que ça se complique les prochains jours, avec les problèmes de quarantaine éventuels, mais on va espérer que ça se passe bien. Mais effectivement, la France est un bon exemple de ville de différentes tailles qui s'impliquent à fond dans les réseaux. Bien sûr, la ville de Paris avec l'IMF qui est le siège, mais plein d'autres. On a très bon avec Nantes, avec Lyon, avec Lille et ainsi de suite. Et donc, c'est la même chose en Suisse, effectivement. Je pense qu'on va, l'intervention comme celle de votre collègue arménien montre qu'on doit aussi faire un travail de dialogue avec les missions, oui. Voilà, pour expliquer la démarche et voir les coopérations, pas seulement avec les OI ou les ONG, tout à fait. D'autres questions, d'autres? Oui, là. First, Mr. Graham.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Mayor and Ambassador. Delighted to be here. I'm the representative, Graham Ambassador, the representative of UN Habitat here in Geneva. Of course, we were there at the birth of the City Hub. We were partners with you early on. And as we speak at the moment, we're in the process of negotiating an agreement with the Cities Hub to see how we can support one another in this amazing new enterprise of the Government of Switzerland and the Canton and Geneva City. So congratulations. We're very happy to work with you and get down to business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Graham. Indeed, UN Habitat was really one of the closest friends at the birth of the Cities Hub. Indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexandre Josi, l'Université de Genève, Urban Future Lab. Just wanted to congratulate Cities Hub for the start of its activities and make a plea here. I'm sure I'm not the only representative of academia and scientific community, but I would love to see more of engagement of researchers and science so that we can bring to fruition what Paola very rightly mentioned, and it's very important to bring not only national policymakers but also local policymakers, but also further down the road try to monitor some of the progresses that we are doing and convergences that we are having. COVID have shown us that questions such as inclusiveness, such as prosperity in cities are big challenges that go beyond the financial situations, and obviously public health is at the heart of that. So what do we do with that? We come up with new indicators, with new ways of addressing some of those joint efforts, but at the same time try to see some of those national pledges, for example, towards SDG 11, but not only 11, other SDGs also, how we can move towards those pledges and achieve something bigger than what we were hoping a few years ago just through the SDG framework at the national level. So please do engage the academia and the scientific community, because that's where I think is also our strength in terms of coming up with novelty.
Thank you very much. Indeed, we need you. And we have the chance in Geneva to have a very rich and diverse academic community, so it is indeed an excellent opportunity for the Cities Hub. Yes, Achim, you are a good example.
So now I'm taking my Geneva Peace Building Platform hat off and ask a question or a contribution in my role as speaking for the Graduate Institute. And I just want to second the comment from our colleague from the University of Geneva that there is a portfolio of research which the University of Geneva, the Graduate Institute, has at its fingertips and is currently doing that can really serve as a very fruitful base for also stimulating some of the discussions. In my experience as running a platform, convening around cutting-edge research and filtering research from practitioners, so this interaction between the research community and the practice community is something that a hub that gives dynamics to a hub. So I think this is exactly one of these elements that you can absorb in terms of the rayonnement de la Genève intellectuelle that is there for the taking, I would say.
Merci. D'autres commentaires ou contributions? Any other comments? Yes, please.
Merci beaucoup. Je m'appelle Marie-Chantal Ouakazina. Je suis l'ambassadeur du Rwanda en Suisse, mais aussi représentante permanente du Rwanda aux Nations Unies ici à Genève. Je suis ancienne maire de la ville de Kigali, et qui était membre de l'Association internationale des maires francophones, mais qui est aussi partenaire du City Council Challenge. And, je suis très contente de faire partie de cette réunion. J'avais des questions par rapport à la couverture géographique du hub. J'ai entendu que elle est inclusive et que les villes africaines sont aussi bénéficiaires de plusieurs initiatives qui ont été mentionnées. Et je voudrais dire que je suis là comme ambassadeur, mais aussi comme éventuel point de lien entre ce qui sera fait par le hub et les différentes organisations, associations desquelles les villes africaines sont membres. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Madame l'ambassadeur. Effectivement, en tant qu'ancienne maire et donc ancien collègue Kigali, c'est que c'est un membre actif de l'IMF et il y a une assemblée générale d'ailleurs qui est. Puis effectivement, donc si vous voulez, géographiquement, le hub travaille à Genève, mais ouvert sur le monde. Donc c'est ça donc on essaie vraiment de connecter ces différentes composantes de l'activité pour rendre service à tout le monde, effectivement. D'autres contributions ou commentaires? Oui.
Merci beaucoup. Je me présente, je m'appelle Poonam Mohan de l'ambassade et de la mission permanente de l'île Maurice. Je représente donc mon ambassadeur aussi, donc j'aimerais juste excuser mon ambassadeur qui n'a pas pu faire le déplacement, mais donc je la représente. J'aimerais juste vous remercier pour cette initiative et surtout de nous avoir invités, comme son Excellence l'ambassadrice de Rwanda vient de dire. Donc on est aussi content d'être ici, les représentants du continent africain. Juste ajouter mon mot de remerciement. Merci beaucoup.
Avec grand plaisir, effectivement, pour votre présence. Et du coup, ça complète très bien le message de la mairesse de Tunis qu'on a entendu tout à l'heure. D'autres commentaires, réactions? Any closing comment on your side? We have heard many contributions. Everybody seems convinced of the idea. Now the challenge is to make it practical and concrete, next steps. So, Isabelle?
I think there is so many possibilities that I think you have a hard task to narrow down the priorities, because I just see so many possibilities. And we were talking about the academia, but of course I'm also interested on connecting the health institutions to support others to advance, because the reality is that Geneva City is quite advanced and has a lot of knowledge to share. So how, of course, I would like to expand that. I'm really thankful. I think this for us is going to be critical. You know, I already heard some other names that I'm, of course, interested to explore. I'm going to be working very closely with the UN mission of Armenia, because the First Lady is all over the place wanting us to go to Armenia. So I'm sure we're going to get an application soon. But no, I just want to thank, I think this is, of course, we are in the opening and it's great, we all congratulate, but also we're here to support you also. We're also here to tell you what are our needs as an NGO, what are the needs that we're seeing at the city level. So use us also for understanding, for knowledge, to help bring us in your brainstorming meetings. We're really open to help also shape the success of this, to make sure that also benefits NGOs and, of course, our cities.
Thank you very much, Achim.
Two or three small thoughts. The first one is, welcome to the family of platforms. So there's a family here, and as a family, we support each other. So that's one. The second one is, there's a Spanish saying, roads are made by walking. So start to walk and just go for it. And the third one is, which a fellow platform head always says, is if you want to be relevant, don't change the system, but be the consistent stone in the shoe. So if the City Hub, working on relevant issues doesn't mean that you are always liked by everyone immediately. And that requires also some shepherding from behind, from the family. But it makes this work of platforms relevant to those individuals who are really trying to find solutions in places that are very difficult. So that's my closing words.
Sounds very convincing, and I'm happy that there is a family who can be supportive. Paola?
Merci. Donc, dès qu'on est dans la communauté francophone, je termine en français. On est déjà dans le concret, donc je ne veux rien ajouter, on travaille, donc on va continuer. Je prends l'opportunité pour remercier le maire parce que nous avait accueillis tout de suite, on rêvait de City Hub, on rêvait de le Forum des maires. Pour remercier aussi Olivier qui a participé dans la réunion et surtout Camille qui est vraiment, je me rappelle notre première réunion, on était là encore, on fait comme ça, comment on fait, c'était seulement des idées et on est là et voilà. C'est vrai, c'est passé. Donc, la prochaine étape est le Forum de maires. Nous, on est encore arrivés. Vous êtes déjà en existence. Nous, on n'est pas encore là. Mais un grand merci. Et on voit vraiment qu'on parlait de commencer à se promener là. Mais nous, on est déjà en chemin. On fait déjà des choses. Et je pense qu'on va continuer comme ça. Et on espère de tout vous voir au forum ensemble. On va l'ouvrir ensemble avec, vous avez écouté aussi Madame Volovaya va être là, donc c'est une invitation pour participer en personne au palais. On va être là, on espère, on croise les doigts.
Effectivement, qu'il n'y ait pas de nouvelles. Merci beaucoup Paola pour ces mots d'encouragement et très concrets comme vous avez dit. Effectivement, pour le Special HCG, l'ODD 11, nous avons le plaisir de constater que nous ferons une réunion des réseaux et que quasiment tous les grands réseaux de villes vont être présents. Donc pour ceux et celles qui demandaient What Next, c'est une manière de prendre contact entre les réseaux de villes et la Genève internationale. Et donc on se réjouit beaucoup que la plupart ont déjà répondu présent. Ce qui nous permettra aussi de mettre en ligne, ça paraît bête, mais il manque une sorte de plateforme très simple qui montre la liste des réseaux. Donc on y travaille également. Et puis leur faire découvrir à eux, à ces réseaux, toute la richesse de la vie internationale à Genève, donc ça le 5 octobre, et puis le 6, bien sûr, le Forum des maires. Et donc, merci beaucoup pour vos contributions qui montrent un petit aperçu des nombreuses opportunités. On va devoir plutôt trier dans ce spectre. So, what next indeed? As I said, the Forum of Mayors on the 6th of October, and on the day before, as Paola said, we're organizing the SDG 11 Day. And on that opportunity, most of the relevant cities network have already confirmed coming to Geneva, wanting to contribute to the meeting and being present in Geneva on that day to realize how the huge potential of what happens in Geneva practically and, for practical issues. So thank you very much for your support, for your presence, for your very encouraging words. Merci beaucoup pour vos mots d'encouragement. Et as Achim said, we start to walk. On va commencer à marcher. Thank you very much. And there is an aperitif which is COVID compatible. We have to be creative. So there are like small bags of your peanuts to avoid, mixing your hands in the same plate, and a drink. And please, it's nice weather. Enjoy it outside the building. So no mask compulsory outside. Thank you very much. Enjoy the evening. Good day.